There we go. Good evening and welcome to the Candidates Forum on Neighborhoods, organized and hosted by Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Jim Hawk. I'm the Executive Director here at Neighbor to Neighbor. Tonight, we welcome the 8 remaining Metro Council candidates to participate in this conversation on neighborhoods. We do ask that everyone except the candidates keep their microphones muted throughout the entire forum. We've also spotlighted the candidates and myself so that everyone can focus their attention on the candidates and their responses. We will have the edited video available on our YouTube channel, unedited video on our YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. Over 50 of our participants submitted questions for consideration. Unfortunately, with 8 candidates, it's not 13, but it is 8. We're only going to have time to ask about 4 or 5 of those questions. So we've endeavored to select questions that are focused on neighborhoods and represent the concerns most raised by the participants registered. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to the question before the group. Earlier this evening, we pulled the names out of a bowl, actually out of a cup, to determine the initial order for the introductions. We will use that order for the evening while rotating the first person to the end so that it's a new person answering first. I would like to welcome the following candidates to the forum: Councilwoman Burkley Allen, Chris Cheng, Quin Evans-Segall, Olivia Hill, Howard Jones, Councilwoman Delishia Porterfield, Councilman Russ Pulley, and Councilman Jeff Syracuse. We will begin our forum with introductions. This time, each candidate will have 2 minutes. I'm bringing 2 minutes up on the clock. And our first person that will be speaking this evening, and I'll run through the list candidates so you don't have to worry about remembering where you are. Our first candidate this evening is Burkley Allen with Howard Jones up next. Berkeley.
Well, good evening, and thanks so much for giving us this opportunity, Jim. I'm Burkley Allen. I am running for re-election as a Metro Council member at large. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve as a council member for the past 12 years. 8 years as a district council member, and then 4 years as a council member at large. And as a district council member, I had the opportunity to work on successful schools, safe, walkable, bikeable communities, and smart growth that respects the character of the neighborhood, but allows the businesses, the local businesses and institutions to thrive. I had some fantastic neighborhood associations and some great neighbors, including a couple here on the forum. And we were able to get some great things done. We got some sidewalks built, stop signs, crosswalks. We expanded 2 historic districts, and we had our growth focused on the corridors so that we could leave our neighborhoods alone. We had some really cool traffic calming initiatives. We got one of the city's first traffic calming circles installed. We created the first walking district that lowered the speed limit to 20 miles an hour, which has now been expanded citywide. And also worked on some stormwater issues, just in terms of people saying, I never flooded until that new house got built up the hill. And that also was a citywide issue. So then I ran at large so that I could continue to work on citywide issues. And during that time have focused largely on housing affordability. Was a sponsor of the bill that created the Barnes Fund and created a day-do overlay and several other issues that have resulted in creating new tools for housing affordability. Also served on the mayor's affordable housing task force. And I've also looked at some issues dealing with solid waste and with traffic calming, again, spreading that to the whole city. Served on the Vision Zero task force, and I'm excited that we're implementing some of those. So I'm eager to continue that work and ask for your vote for Burkley Allen for council member at large.
My apologies. I said 2 minutes and I gave you 90 seconds. So you finished right on time.
Okay, I had a timer going, so.
Howard Jones, please. And next up will be Chris Cheng.
Good afternoon. And Jim, thank you so very much for all that you do. And Shirley, and thank you to all the participants here who give me some joy that you're here interested in Nashville. I'm born, raised, reared here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm an educator, been an educator for nearly 30 years. I'm presently a principal at Stratford High School. I pastored the Fairfield Church where I pastored for 34 years. We've started affordable housing through that venue. I'm also the owner of Kingdom Cafe and Grill on Jefferson Street to, really transform and help that area. The three areas I think that it will be most certainly important to every community, and we want a safer community. Safer community, we want our kids to be educated, and we want good schools because we all want our community to be well. And so we need to fully fund education. And then also we need affordable housing, housing that will indeed go along with the construct of every community, and not just saying, okay, we're going to throw this house here and this particular here. Some people don't want any more tall and skinnies in their neighborhood. So let us really shape Nashville's future together. I'm asking for your vote. My name is Howard Jones, and hey, educator, connection with community.
Yeah,
and
I'm on the phone.
Surely, I'm asking for your vote. My name is Howard Jones, Council at Large. I'm grateful for all those who voted for me, putting me in the top 5. So let's make it happen. Early voting starts Friday. Let's make it do what it does. Thank you.
And just a reminder to our audience, if you'd please mute your microphones. There's several people that are, there we go, are talking, and we can't understand what the candidates are saying. All right, thank you. Chris Cheng and Olivia Hill is up next. Chris.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. My name is Chris Cheng. I'm 34 years old. I was born in Nashville. My wife and I live out in Old Hickory, and I'm an Army veteran. I did a couple deployments in my 20s, one to Kuwait and a couple to Afghanistan. I served as an Army Ranger officer, and my wife and I we live here, and we're small business owners. We work a lot at the farmers markets and craft festivals around town. We make hot sauce for a living. That's our life, and we have a little hot sauce business. And I'm really passionate about that community, and I'm also really passionate about the local small businesses all throughout the county. I've gotten the honor of working with a lot of them, both in what we do now, and then also I've seen a lot of them move from the farmers markets to open their own coffee shops, their own bagel shops. And this is a big reason why I'm running, is to be a champion for that community, especially in the local service industry, and just giving a light to those issues. And always, if there's a new development or a new, something happening in the neighborhoods, like having someone on the council that's always kind of raising their hand and trying to give that perspective for the small businesses, and providing and giving insight to those challenges and ways that we can create opportunities for their success. And because for me, so much of those businesses are what make the local small businesses that we have, or what make Nashville tasty, interesting, special. And it's important to me to maintain that and to help those people grow. Also, I'm just really, really passionate about our community infrastructure. I grew up going to all of our parks and libraries and community centers. I'm really passionate about our schools and making sure we invest in these community assets. That doesn't matter how much money you make or where you come from, or if you just moved here, if you've been here forever. These are great equalizers for us in society. And I think maintaining our green spaces and opportunities for recreation for our neighborhoods, opportunities for informal gatherings at picnics and community centers, that's something that's really important to me, and I hope to talk more about.
Chris.
Thanks so much.
All right, up next is Olivia Hill, followed by Delishia Porterfield.
Muted.
Did you say 90 seconds or 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Okay.
120 seconds.
So my name is Olivia Hill. I'm a Nashville native. I'm actually a 4th generation Nashvilleian. I just retired from Vanderbilt University, where I used to run a power plant. I served 10 years in the Navy, where I did 3 deployments, 2 of which were in the Persian Gulf, including combat and Desert Storm. I started at Vanderbilt working at the power plant at the bottom, worked my way up. By trade, I'm a plumber, pipe fitter, welder, high voltage electrician, diesel mechanic, jet engine mechanic, boiler specialist, and I help design a control system that's currently running Vanderbilt power plant. People understand Nashville traffic, and people understand how much traffic has slowed down because of all the people that have moved here. The same thing has happened to all our utilities: power, water, storm drains, sewers, cell phone service, internet service has all slowed down due to the traffic of the people that's moved here. That's my expertise. And I want to start helping or forcing developers to do tests on the water lines that they're tying into to check wall thicknesses. It's an easy test for them to do. Some of these walls, some of these pipes are really old, and they have 2 to 3 inches of scale built up on the inside, which decreases the amount of water that they will pass. And so when an engineer says that this is a 28-inch line and it should pass X number of gallons per minute, it really should. And when you look at what's tied into that line, that should be sufficient for a subdivision. But as we all know, a new development, a subdivision, a building gets tied in. A first couple of years, we all start to have complaints. We complain to the homeowner association. They say it's not us, it's you. And then you finally get enough situations going and you find like, oh yeah, it really is the water line that they tied into. We go back to the city and then Metro Water doesn't have it in their budget to fix it. Had we have done a simple test in the beginning and forced the contractor to upgrade the line that they were trying to tie into or not allow them to tie into it at all, that I think that would really help grow. So thanks.
Thank you. Let's see, Delishia Porterfield and Quin Evans is up next. Delishia?
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Really excited to be with y'all today. My name is Delishia Porterfield, and I currently serve as the Councilwoman for District 29. I'm also the chair of the Minority Caucus, and I've previously served as our Education Chair, the Vice Chair of our Budget and Finance Committee, as well as our Vice Chair of Public Health and Safety. And I'm really excited to be running for Metro Council at Large. For the last 4 years, I've been fully present in District 29, making sure that we've gotten things that were important to our neighbors out there, like infrastructure improvements. We've seen stormwater improvements. We've seen more paved roads, as well as traffic calming in the community. And we've been able to get sidewalks. And that's awesome. And it's an awesome investment that's important to not only our community, but communities all across our city. And while I was fully present for those issues, I was also fully present for the issues that are impacting our city. And these are fights for working people, justice, equity, and fighting to defend our democracy. And I made the decision to run for council at large. And thankfully, with the support of many of you on this call, I'm honored to say that I'm the top vote getter going into the runoff. And I attribute that to the hard work that I've done over the last 4 years. I'm fighting to keep a Nashville for Nashvillians. We have a great economic impact when we think about the tourism industry here in Nashville. A lot of money is coming into downtown, and we really appreciate that. We need to make sure that that money is dispersed through the city, throughout our neighborhoods, making sure that we're fully funding schools, making sure that we're doing neighborhood investments like sidewalks and parks, and also making sure that we address the affordability so that the people that make Nashville a wonderful city can actually afford to live here. And they don't have to move out to the suburbs because they can no longer afford to live in the city that they work in every day. So again, my name is Delishia Porterfield. I'm running for Metro Council at Large. I would love to earn one of your 4 votes.
Thank you. Up now is Quin Evans-Segall with Jeff Syracuse following. Quin?
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you, Neighbor to Neighbor, for putting this on. It's really special to be able to have a forum and also one that people can attend whenever and watch later. I'm really delighted to be here. I'm a lawyer, and that's not normally something that people think of as super exciting and somebody who is going to jump in and be a problem solver, right? We think of lawyers as like more the butt of jokes. But the kind of lawyer I am is I do public and private finance and real estate, which means that I've spent my entire career, over 15 years, helping governments and companies that work with governments and people who work with governments make governments better and solve all of our problems, whether it's buying a town's first fire truck, which really changes a community, to building bridges and community centers, figuring out how we're going to pay for the stormwater and sewer infrastructure that a city needs, that we need as a community to be safe and healthy. I've spent my whole career doing that. And I've been able to take that experience in my career and also apply it in my own neighborhood, right? And what we see in Nashville, which is my hometown. I grew up down in Creve Hall. I now live in Belmont Hillsborough. I'm on the steering committee for my neighborhood. What we see is a neighborhood that should be walkable, should be transit oriented, and until very recently didn't have a single public park in it. And my neighborhood association had to spend over 2 years working with the Parks Department to get that implemented and put in. It should be easier for neighbors to improve the spaces around them, right? We need systems to do this. Our city's really grown. We've known since Plan to Play that we needed this, and we don't have it, right? It also means things like zoning. Right now, developers are trying to tell us what they're going to do to our neighborhoods, but it's long past time that we update the zoning code and start the Nashville Next process so that we can come together as communities and say, we have a say in how we're going to grow and develop. I hope that you'll consider voting for me so I can represent you on Nashville's Council at Large in those issues.
Thank you. Jeff Syracuse is up now with Russ Pulley coming next. Jeff?
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everybody. This organization is very special to me personally. when I was helping organize my neighborhood of 504 homes into a neighborhood watch that ultimately evolved into its own neighborhood association. Then when it was called the Neighborhood Resource Center, and I see Mike Hodge here, he personally came out to us and helped guide us towards evolving into a better, more sustainable neighborhood association, which we are today. And so we are the Donaldson Hills Neighborhood Association. We've invested tens of thousands of our own dollars, replacing all our street signs, creating entryway beautification and signage, creating a sense of place, respecting history, and being welcoming to new neighbors. And then I gave back to the Neighborhood Resource Center. I was the vice president of then the Neighborhood Resource Center when it was struggling and almost closed its doors. I'm proud of my work to help ensure that the organization is the thriving organization that it is today, thanks to Jim's leadership. My piece of helping to evolve the organization was updating the bylaws so that 8 of the board seats of Neighbor to Neighbor align with the MNPD precincts so that it immediately has a countywide presence to make sure that all neighborhoods are organized. And so I've been a strong neighborhood advocate over 20 years. In my 8 years on council here in District 15, I'm proud of the work to bring balanced, inclusive, and equitable growth, which I think obviously we need more of across the county. My biggest project has been a brand new library for Donaldson, which more than just a library, it serves as a civic anchor for a walkable town center across the street from a regional transit hub. And so that's been my passion, to make sure to revitalize the neighborhood into something that's good for folks, whether you've lived here for multiple generations or you moved here last week. And then as a 25-year Music Row exec, I've been very passionate about supporting our creative, working creatives, our economy that serves our working creatives, and to make sure that the soul of the city is kept strong. And so when I ran for District 15, it was my theme was that the soul of the city lies in the hearts of the people, and I maintain that theme. So would love to earn your support at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ Pulley is up.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. I am Russ Pulley. I'm a 2-term district council member, and I'm about to end that in a little less than a week, and hope to get your vote for an at-large position. I'm going to keep this focused on neighborhoods because that's what we're here for. I believe in growing responsibly while protecting what we love and cherish about our neighborhoods. Now, how does that look to you? I'll just tell you some of the things that I believe that council members can proactively get involved in, and cite some examples of what we've done in our district over the last 8 years. First, we have to strike the balance between property rights and protecting our neighborhood values. You know, some of the ways we've done that, short-term rental regulations for one, making non-owner occupied STRPs illegal in neighborhood areas. You know, we as council members fight that battle. So we're the ones that help the neighbors bring relief when people are violating those rules, creating areas of soft density and protecting context through overlays and downzoning. We've had several of those efforts in this district, which require neighborhood involvement, which enables the neighbors to be involved in giving up those property rights while creating these areas of soft density. In addition, you know, some other ways we can do that is, you know, I was a part of the countywide bill to create contextual setbacks, which I think council members, one of the things that we did was engage people who also were stakeholders in this to come to an agreement between the development community and the neighborhoods to make sure this was effective. And I've got to stop now, so I'll just ask for your vote and then hopefully be able to address some more of these things with questions.
Thank you. Thank you. The first question that we're going to ask this evening really isn't strictly about neighborhoods. What we're trying to get to is your passion for running. And so the question that we'll be asking tonight is, if you could only if you knew you could only 100% successfully address one topic or concern in your tenure, what would it be and why? I'll repeat it because it's wordy.
Wow.
If you could only 100% successfully address one topic or concern in your tenure, what would it be and why? And first up is the guy who said, wow, Howard Jones, followed by Chris Cheng.
Yeah, my passion would be to structure education in our school system and to fully fund it, but then with stipulations. I remember when our children could come out of school readily with the HVAC, tech certification, culinary arts, and the like. If our kids could really come out of school, because all of our kids don't want to go to college, and some are qualified, some just don't want to go, but we can get them ready for career. And in this city, city, I'm telling you, it would be amazing. That would do two things. It would bring down crime, all right? And then we'll have a happier city and then bring it together. And that would help the economic kind of a base with this city. So that would be my real thrust to help with that educational piece that would indeed help with the economic diversity that's really needed to be closed, that gap, that economic gap that really we could close through education.
Thank you. Chris Cheng, followed by Olivia Hill. Chris?
Yeah, although I'm trying to run as like kind of the small business champion, what I would focus on, I think, is something that affects both our small businesses, but everyone here is, and what I touched on a little bit earlier, is the community infrastructure. And I'm really passionate about it because for several reasons. And what I mean by that is our parks, it's our green spaces, it's our community centers, our greenways, our libraries and our schools, like the things that we invest in as a public, as our public assets. These are incredibly important to me, and I think sacred in our neighborhoods and in our county, because as we're growing, and as like with income inequality and different opportunities, we don't know, these spaces aren't going to be here forever unless we take care of them and protect them for future generations. So even opening like new parks like Millridge Park and Ravenwood Park, places where, you can save money by not having to go on, big vacations or big trips. You can just go there, play basketball, play tennis, just go for a bike ride around the trails, or even just a walk. Even things like, I think these are so good. These green spaces also provide not just mental health in today's day and age, physical health, but also like they help our environment. So they help clean the air. They help stormwater runoff. So when there's natural disasters or really bad storms or inclement weather, like our systems are built in place to protect us with our tree canopy built in. Same goes with our community centers and libraries are often tied into these places. Growing up the son of an immigrant, like I love the fact that there's English as second language resources, workforce development resources, citizenship courses at the libraries, the seed banks. Yeah, I love these things.
Thank you. Let's see, Olivia Hill, followed by Delishia Porterfield. Olivia? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I was trying to be quiet, so here I'm back on. So mine would be utilities and infrastructure, because I'm kind of a geek. It's my passion. It's what I've done for a little over 40 years. I took radio and TV repair at Hillwood when I was at high school. I was in the Navy for 10 years, and I was at Vanderbilt for 26 years. It's what I enjoy most. I would love to help our underground grow at the same rate we're trying to grow our above ground, and make sure everything grows together.
Thank you. Up now is Delishia Porterfield, followed by Quin Evans-Segall. Delishia?
Thank you so much, Jim. That's a great question. So my one issue would be quality of life. And when I think of quality of life, that is an umbrella issue. I think the biggest part of quality of life that I see, whether I'm talking to working people, families, or retirees, is affordability in this city. I said it before, our people that are making this city what it is, our retirees, people that have worked and want to retire with dignity, they're getting priced out. And unfortunately, a lot of them can't afford to live here anymore. So we have to make sure that we are addressing fair wages and livable wages for our Metro employees here in our city. Raising the wages of Metro employees means other industries have to raise their wages to stay competitive, and that helps address affordability in our city. When I think of quality of life, I think of education. All of our kids deserve to go to a school where they can receive a quality education. And our neighborhood schools have to remain strong so that they can retain the best students in the community. And then when we think about neighborhood investments, like those parks and sidewalks that we talked about earlier, all of those impact your quality of life. And, you know, we all pay our taxes here in this city. We're all making some type of investment in this city. We all should be able to benefit from it. So my number one issue would be quality of life.
Thank you. Up next is Quin Evans-Segall, followed by Jeff Syracuse. Quin?
Yeah, so my what really I think is the most important issue facing this city is really just the cost to live here, right? And what does that mean? That means the cost of our housing. That means the cost to get around town, whether it's transit or alternative forms of transportation, or even just in our car and how much time we spend sitting in traffic, wasting gas, right? It means the quality of our schools. Can we send our kids to good quality, consistent schools so that we can afford to live in this county, right? Do we have access to parks where we can go and exercise for free, right? That are neighborhood centers where we also build community and sort of fill up our bucket, right? And mentally and emotionally. It means childcare, right? We cannot continue to have a city where a teacher has to spend over half of her net income putting her children or his children through childcare, right? That is not a sustainable model of a resilient city, of a city where we can afford to live. I've watched my grandmother, my aunts, and my sister-in-law teachers, and with each generation, they have to be in a smaller house further out. And we have to figure out how to keep our, not just our Metro employees and our teachers here, but everybody here, right? We all deserve to live in the city and to keep a quality of life that right now seems to be slipping away rapidly. So it's that cost of living. I think that's my 90 seconds.
Thank you. Jeff Syracuse, followed by Russ Pulley. Jeff?
I want to help the county bridge the gap between transit and affordable housing. Ashford Hughes and I were the co-chairs for community engagement for Nashville Next. And when we put that plan together, looking at the next 25, 30 years of growth across the county, it was looking outside of downtown and where are the areas across the county that we should be investing in to bring together transit and affordable housing. When you have those two together and they align, that does help lower the cost of living for folks so they're not car dependent. We need to make sure that the county is growing responsibly and equitably. And I really want to see some better metrics on Nashville Next to make sure we're meeting our goals. I think our growth has gotten away from us and we're not necessarily meeting the goals that we put in place when we looked at balanced and inclusive and equitable growth. I've been able to do that here in Donaldson to make sure that success works for everybody, that we are building affordable housing around transit hubs. This was the goal that we set out, and we need the skill sets in our planning department and our general services department for project management to make sure that we pull private and public together and meet that goal to merge that gap between transit and affordable housing, because ultimately for the next 30 years, that's how we're going to grow responsibly. I've done it and I want to help the county do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Russ Pulley, followed by Burkley Allen.
Thank you, Jim. Public safety is very important to me, and in tune with that, with the question being one specific thing, I would jump on a transit plan. We haven't had a robust transit plan here since first or second year in my first term, and that was voted down. The great thing about a robust transit plan moving forward is we have designated funding sources that don't dig completely into the pockets of the Davidson County taxpayers. And what we get out of this is, in addition to a very robust transit system, some of the things that really help us big time in the neighborhood, infrastructure items like sidewalks, which we here have been negotiating with private entities and developers to secure sidewalk infrastructure in our districts for the last 8 years, because public money is just not there. We're so far behind. And the only way we're going to ever have a chance at catching up with this is to have a robust plan. And that would be my greatest desire as a #1 priority, because that trickles down to safety in our neighborhoods as well, with the traffic calming items that we could add to what we're already getting from such a plan. Thank you. And I'm 3 seconds short of my 90 seconds, Jim.
I recorded that. Thank you. And finally, Burkley Allen.
Thanks for that question, Jim. I would continue to focus on housing affordability, which is a recurring theme here, because housing, good, stable housing is healthcare. It's access to great education. It's access to job stability, and all of those things then enable people to be in control of their quality of life. I've spent a lot of time working on this. I was chair of the Affordable Housing Committee and served on the Affordable Housing Task Force, and have been working with a number of groups, both developers and the planning department, and actually have a meeting planned in September to get everybody in the same room to talk about what obstacles we've inadvertently put up that are making it difficult to build affordable housing. There's some tools out there that we've created through this process. The mixed income pilot, which I passed, is enabling people to build, to include affordable units on transit lines near areas of opportunity and jobs. And there are other variations on that I hope to also include. And then also I've worked on creating or asking the housing department in the planning department to create a housing dashboard. So for the first time, we've got actual data on what the need is and how good a job we're doing at meeting it. So part of solving the problem is being able to measure it and gauge it. And I want to continue to create new tools and to put to use all the knowledge that I've gained over the past couple of years working on that.
Thank you. All right, our next question comes in, and Cheng will be our first person to respond. What is your understanding of our community's affordable housing crisis, and what specific plan do you have for addressing it? Chris?
Yeah, for me, the housing is a really, really big deal on some of the affordability stuff we mentioned. Again, I'm 34 years old, and a lot of my friends and family, a lot of my friends my age, this is a big crunch. This is really, really near and dear to us, because a lot of us are getting just pushed outside the county, or even far, far, far outside the county, just to be able to afford here and live here. And a lot of my childhood friends, I grew up in the area, and a lot of my childhood friends don't live here anymore, and they've had to seek out other places to be. And that's just not just selfishly living here. I want my friends to be able to live here closer. I want people to move here and to be able to start, little small businesses, be part of the creative class, be able to be a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer, whatever it might be. You can actually live here and work here. And for me, it does come down to some of the stuff we mentioned, which is using our main corridors and increasing density and opportunities where we can have some quads, some triples, areas that are tied in, like Councilmember Syracuse mentioned, with transit, so that you're saving money both ways, both on housing and on the transit. Also on the services that our city provides, whether it be sewer, trash, recycling, the utilities that Olivia Hill is mentioning that are so vital and important. When we can tie these things together, and that's really what we're looking for. My generation is just looking for a shot. Like, we're just looking for some starter areas. We're nothing looking for something big or fancy or a giant lawns to mow. Like, we just want a little space to have get here and be able to live here and work here.
Thank you. Next up is Olivia Hill, followed by Delishia Porterfield. Olivia?
I think affordable housing, it falls in the same lines of what Jeff was saying, but I think it's a three-part question. I think affordable housing, we have to have affordable housing in every single area of Nashville. We have to have transit. And the other kicker is we've got to have good paying jobs, because if we spend a lot of time and effort and money to get affordable housing, and people don't have a way to get to and from work economically and have a good job to go to be able to afford to keep the affordable housing, then we've really shot ourselves in the foot. And I think it's a three-part question, the thing that we need to work on. And one of the biggest things I want to push for is affordable housing in every area.
Thank you. Up now is Delishia Porterfield, followed by Quin Evans-Segall. Delishia?
Thank you so very much. Over the last 4 years, we've made some historic investments in housing. For the first time, we do have an office that's specifically addressing housing in the city. And there was, some recommendations that were made on how we can address housing. And this council has addressed, I believe, half of the recommendations. So the first thing is we need to continue with the recommendations that have been given to us. We need to continue putting more money into affordable housing. But we know that money alone does not address the issue. Recently, I had the opportunity to attend a forum that was connecting faith leaders with investors and developers, because many times our churches have land where they can build housing, but don't have the money to actually build that housing. And we have developers and investors that are able to invest in that housing, but they don't have the land to do so. So that's one thing that we've looked at. We're also looking at partnering with nonprofits to address housing affordability here in our city. We do have to make sure that we're looking at our zoning. And I want to be mindful that when we're having those conversations, for me, it's also really important that we're doing that in tandem with our community. So we have to make sure that we're getting community feedback and input from the residents. I'm a firm believer that development should not happen to people, but it should happen in tandem with people and with the community, so that we make sure that community voices are being heard. And then the last thing that I would say to address affordable housing, time. Okay. Affordability, raising wages. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, up now is Quin Evans-Segall and Jeff Syracuse. Quin?
Yeah, so I think first, we do have a really good plan for affordable housing, and I applaud the current council for getting as far as they have with that plan. We have to continue that plan. It's got some really great recommendations in it that will pay back in dividends as we go forward in the future if we can fully implement all of them. Secondly, I would say we just have to have better coordination among not just Metro, but all the intergovernmental entities here in Metro. We're working really, really hard on the IDB to do this. So by way of example, what do I mean by coordination? I mean, the IDB did an affordable housing bond issuance for a development in Belshire. I went to the ribbon cutting and MDHA said, "What are you doing here? We didn't know IDB had anything to do with this." MDHA, IDB, the state of Tennessee had all worked on that project, right? There could be a project where you would also have Health and Education Facilities Board and council also doing some work, right? Right now, those conversations are not happening. On the IDB, we're trying really hard to get those programs out there so people know about them and then start working together. And then on council, zoning's critical, right? Our zoning code is super out of date. And right now, developers come to us and they tell us what they're going to do to our neighborhood. In contrast, something like Madison Station, which Councilmember Van Reese was able to do, she went to the community and the community said, "This is what we want." It's super dense, it's super mixed use, it's on a transit corridor, right? And it was welcomed by the community because they wanted it. So we've got to do that too.
Thank you. Jeff Syracuse, followed by Russ Pulley. Jeff?
Well, there certainly is no one silver bullet for this issue, as we know. We need to focus on the different categories of affordable housing. It's quickly become affordable housing. What does it mean to you? Is it truly affordable? The 30%, 60%, 90, 120% AMIs, all those are different buckets of affordability and what is actually attainable to folks. There's different tools that Metro does have that we can continue to use as private-public partnerships. The one thing that I did attempt to do in my first term, which was the very first use of a new tool that the state allowed, which is a transit-oriented redevelopment district. And as I tried to say it, it was using TIF for Main Street, not for Wall Street. Obviously, we've used tools in the past to grow the city for big hotels and developments like that. We've got to use it for people. And again, trying to combine that transit affordable housing connection via tools that lower the cost of development so that we can maintain long-term affordability around our transit corridors, I think is one of our long-term solutions that we just need to focus on. I'm harking back to my answer from the previous question, but we need to focus on it like a laser. I've done programs and created programs to help with stormwater infrastructure and whatnot that ultimately does help to lower the cost of development so that we can maintain long-term affordability. That's key. We can. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Up next now is Russ Pulley, followed by Burkley Allen.
Thank you. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of Jeff. I do still think focus on the transit plan. When we get a robust transit system, we're able to put more density on the corridors and take advantage of the ability to get cars off the streets, and also focus on more affordability. Pilots and TIFs, Jeff alluded to this, actually just stated a lot of it in what he stated previously. When I first came on the council, we were using pilots and TIFs to draw businesses into Nashville and compete with other cities for their headquarters. And we don't do that really anymore as an incentive, but those are very, very good tools for MDHA, who currently uses those tools to provide incentives for developers to create affordable units when they create developments. I also am a big fan of inclusionary zoning, and we've got plans like Envision Casey and Envision Sudicum Napier, where that concept is being used, where you have mixed incomes living in the same areas. And the Barnes Fund, we continue to put money and fund the Barnes Fund, which can be used to subsidize affordable housing. So those are specific examples of how we're doing it, in addition to what other council members have said about the plan that we have. I'm out of time now.
Thank you. Burkley Allen, followed by Howard Jones. Burkley.
So good questions. As I mentioned, I served on the Affordable Housing Task Force, and we came up with 10 very specific things to do, and one of which was creating a housing division, which has been great because now Angie Hubbard shows up at every planning meeting, and housing is an important part of the discussion. As we've heard, this has got to be a team effort. It's going to take MDHA, the IDB, Health and Ed Board, nonprofits and for-profits. I created the mixed income pilot, working with Angie Hubbard, that allows for-profit builders to put affordable housing in areas of opportunity. And that's been a great tool. We've also got to work on soft density, as we've talked about. Another recommendation of the task force was to create a strike fund so that we can preserve existing affordable housing rather than have developers come in, do a paint job, and then double the rent on it. And that's a really important thing, because that's the most cost-effective way to do it. We also need regulatory changes so that some of the things that we do just make it hard. For example, we have numerous churches that are really eager to put tiny homes or something like that on their property. And right now, codes doesn't know how to do that. You have to have mobile home parking in order, zoning in order to be able to put those kinds of prefab houses in place. We can fix that problem, but we just got to be intentional and creative about doing that. And finally, we need some more dedicated funding for that. Maybe it's a millage on our development taxes or something like that. And I'm serving on the Tax Abatement and Study and Formulating Committee that's looking at how to use TIFs and pilots better. So lots of tools, we just need to put them to work.
Thank you. Howard Jones.
Thank you. The question was, how critical is housing in the city? And it's critical. It's flatlining. We have teachers who work here, but they can't live here. So we need to understand that definitely there should be this development of housing where you would definitely have mixed use for affordable housing, workforce housing, and also affordable. It would be great. As a pastor, I could show other churches and faith-based organizations how to establish affordable housing. We have them. We've done it. It's been going on for years. It's a great program. We have 36 more housing that's established, that's slated to be built. Another thing we can also do is that we can get our kids career ready. That then would help them to leave out of school and get a job and afford a house. And then we could also do something that we used to do. And that is, for those first-time buyers, we used to subsidize those pieces for those places, for those teachers, police officers, healthcare workers would subsidize that. It'd be a win-win situation for us. If we could actually press for a lower interest rate, then that would be affordable for those persons based on their income. I just think we need that type of leadership. My name is Howard Jones. I'm asking for your vote for council at large, and I thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have had a lot of people who were concerned about affordable housing. We have many people who are also concerned about sidewalks and bike lanes. And so the next question up today, which Olivia Hill will be the first person to respond to, is what specific steps do you recommend to make up the tremendous deficit of sidewalks and protected bike lanes in Nashville? And you're muted.
Of course I'm muted. I am every time. Can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So what specific steps do you recommend to make up the tremendous deficit of sidewalks and protected bike lanes in Nashville?
Well, as someone who is a road bike rider, I love bike lanes, and I know that there's certain areas in Bellevue that Old Harding that we don't have a bike lane or a sidewalk at all. It's one of the very dangerous places of Bellevue. This is an area that's not 100% my expertise. This is where I will lean heavily on Burkley Allen, Quin, and some other people to really help me pull together some situations like this of how we can move forward. I will be the first person to tell you, if I don't know the answer to something, I will go to somebody who does. And this is not my expertise of where we pull the funding from to take care of this. I know that we have a problem. I know it's something we need to work on.
Thank you. Next up, Delishia Porterfield, followed by Quin Evans-Segall. Delishia.
Thank you so very much. So sidewalks and bike lanes, protected bike lanes are obviously something that's really important to our communities. My colleague, Councilwoman Angie Henderson, who proud to say just got elected to be our vice mayor, had some groundbreaking legislation that was leading the nation in how we can connect sidewalks and working with pieces of sidewalks that we already have and how we address the connectivity and how we work with communities and developers to address that. And unfortunately, as you all may be aware, we are currently in a lawsuit over that. And we're trying to figure out, what that's going to look like going forward, and how we can continue to address that. Obviously, investment in those areas is going to be really important. But I think in addition to an investment, you can, throw all the money in the world at a problem, but we have to figure out how do we make it more feasible? How do we make it less expensive to lay the sidewalks down? I know we have been working to get grants. We've worked with state and federal funding. I know in District 29, we have some sidewalk programs right now that we're working through, one of which we got federal funding for, and we're still waiting because it takes so long. The benefit of getting the federal funding is that it doesn't come out of our local tax dollars, but the drawback of that is that it takes such a long time to get that funding to NDOT for us to move forward with it. So finding a way to, one, make these programs less expensive, and two, have access to more grant funding to provide funding for those programs.
Thank you. Up now is Quin Evans-Segall, followed by Jeff Syracuse. Quin?
Yeah, so this is a great question. We have 70 years of sidewalk deficit. We can't just snap a finger, right? We don't have the money to do that. The first thing we've got to do is we've got to get consistent on the budget. You can think of infrastructure budgeting like a conveyor belt, right? Takes about 2 years to build a sidewalk from agreeing to build it to having a finished sidewalk. If you budget $30 million one year, that means you're assuming you're going to have $30 million the next year. But what we've seen with several mayors over the past few years and a lot of variability in priorities, that number actually changes. So you might go from 30 million down to 15, right? And all of a sudden, all this money you spent planning a sidewalk that you didn't get out of the ground, you now can't get it out of the ground, right? And so it gets pushed back. And then by the time you finally get to that sidewalk, maybe a year or two later, you have to replan again. So there's like a little bit of waste, or quite a lot of bit of waste if you have a lot of variability in your sidewalk budget. As we go into a new mayoral cycle, that should hopefully help, but council also needs to be a watch on that. Transit funding, right? As Russ said, there's so much you can do with transit money. And when we talk about big fixes, quick fixes, having dedicated funds really, really matters. That also helps because it means we can do other things with capital funds that aren't sidewalks and bike lanes, right? Because we have funding for them. And then lastly, we can fix that legislation. The court case was really clear. There are programs that are legal, but we're going to have to change our law and how we collect those fees to make sure they're constitutional. So those would be my three main goals there.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff Syracuse is up, followed by Russ Pulley. Jeff?
Let me give you a specific example of what I've been able to achieve in the Pennington Bend area of my district. The walk bike plan talks about where we can do it. We need to find less expensive methods of ensuring pedestrian connectivity. It doesn't have to be both a bike lane and a sidewalk. Sidewalks are expensive because of everything you don't see, all that curb and gutter, stormwater infrastructure underneath. What we need is good, pragmatic pedestrian connectivity so people can get around. In the Pennington Bend area, there is a mix of rural, suburban, and regional tourist destination land uses. And what I've been able to do is put an amendment to the walk bike plan that allows for a multi-use path system in the Pennington Bend area so that as development happens, we are making very pragmatic connections that will get you around and are usable whether you're walking or biking, and everybody has accessibility to them. And then best yet, they're paid for by the developer. And so as we develop, we have got to make sure that we can, again, lower the cost of development, but make sure that there's a pedestrian benefit to development. And in the Pennington Bend area is a great example of lower cost, good, strong, pragmatic connectivity that is good for all neighbors. Old school neighbors that have been there a long time, new development, bringing infrastructure that is meaningful and good for them. So we need more kinds of pragmatic connections like that.
Thank you. Okay, Russ Pulley, followed by Burkley Allen. Russ?
Thank you, Jim. Well, I go back to the transit plan again because and the ways I realized early on that we are, as Quin said, decades behind in this kind of infrastructure. It wasn't paid attention back when it should have been paid attention, and now we're suffering the consequences. So negotiating with private developers is how I've been able to get infrastructure in the district. Because in 8 years, I've gotten 2 sidewalk projects with publicly funded money, and I can use, $100 million just in District 25. Transit plan would be a game changer in terms of infrastructure infusion, because, our budget, the way it's situated now, we're just way, it's way too costly to really get us caught up from where we need. And so negotiating with private developers and getting a game changer of a transit plan to give us a major inflection of funds to do this would be my thoughts, in addition to some of the great answers that my fellow candidates have made. Thank you.
Thank you. Up now, Burkley Allen, followed by Howard Jones.
I think a lot of good points have been raised about this. There is funding that is there. I was one of the first council members to get $30 million in the sidewalk budget two mayors ago. But as we've heard, that tends to fluctuate in how it actually gets implemented. And I think part of that is the fact that we've set super high standards for sidewalks, which is great. It's nice to have a really wide sidewalk, but sometimes that becomes an obstacle to actually just getting something put in. So I think having more flexibility in our design, as Jeff has talked about, I think is an important part of that. There also is federal funding through the Safe Routes to Schools program, and also through the infrastructure, just having bus routes that get to bus stops. I mean, sidewalks that'll get you to bus stops can be another source of funding for that. But we've got to, as I said, streamline the process so that we actually don't just get them funded, we actually get the right of way acquired and get them built all the way to completion. And then as far as the bike lanes go, I think 12 South offers a great example of what doing a road dot can do. That we've got really super wide streets sometimes that just invite speeding down there because there's so much room, when you can put in some buffered bike lanes and really just transform the opportunities for other ways to get through our transportation. And then finally, I'm on the Greenways Commission, and it's been great to see how that department works really hard for every new development to say, how can we add, in addition to sidewalks and bikeways, these paths on your that you will dedicate and you will build for, and you will do maintenance on. So that's another important part of that.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Howard Jones, followed by Cheng. Howard.
Thank you. Great points have been laid out, but I think we've got to start talking to the communities, the neighborhoods. Find out, what do you want? You know, what can we do some combo sidewalk, bike lanes? It would be a fantastic thing for us, but we've got to definitely tap into what the people in each community, what they desire. And then at the same time, small businesses, we need to promote small businesses and look at giving some tax abatement for them, and then letting them indeed fund or help fund that sidewalk venture, because that would help their business and then would also help the city. And then at the same time, how about teaching our students, getting our students to be concrete pourers, apprentice? Man, that'd be a twofold win. Our kids could have a career, we could do it cheaper, and it'll get done, instead of just kicking the ball down the road. But if we plan it, I believe we can do it. I love Nashville. Please vote Howard Jones, Council at Large.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Kind of like Olivia, this wasn't my initial expertise in the beginning, and kind of an example of how I try to think about things is diving in and just trying to learn from subject matter experts and learn as much as I can and talking with the community. So several things that I'm really passionate about when it comes to the sidewalks and the bike lanes is I was able to learn from the CEO of WeGo, and a couple of big things was that our average daily ridership has increased from about 20,000 to 25,000, and 95 makes sense. 95% of those people who use that transit walk to and from those areas. So when we can help, I think Councilmember Allen makes a really great point about clearing out the bureaucracy on getting some of these right-of-ways cleared to invest in these sidewalks, but also to ensure that they're ADA accessible for everyone, make sure those bikes come through. That's an area that I think would be really important to focus on. If we are going to invest in our transit, which I want to, is our WeGo system, and make things more livable and affordable, and some of the other stuff we've talked about, I think is continuing that ecosystem out so that people can walk, especially in our transit centers, like at Dawson Station, the Councilmember Syracuse worked really hard on, and also near our schools. I think just the pedestrian, making sure some of these areas around our schools get prioritized as well. I know we want to do everything. I mean, I'm ambitious and I want to get everything done too, but I think those are the areas where I'd like us to focus on, and particularly think about ways that we can control it starting day one, which is helping clear some of the bureaucratic processes to get some of those approvals done quicker.
Thank you. We're going to take a 30-second break, maybe 45-second break, so the candidates can breathe for a second without having to worry about their next answer, and do a commercial. I feel like I'm in the Grand Ole Opry. For those of you who seek to be more involved in the work of preserving and improving your own neighborhood, Neighbor to Neighbor will be offering its 6-week Emerging Neighborhood Leadership Academy every Thursday night at 6:30, beginning September the 19th. This 90-minute course will be offered both in person and virtually. Details can be found on our website at n2n.solutions. Also, Neighbor to Neighbor, we all want to invite you and, of course, all the candidates to our ninth annual Good Neighbor Day Festival on Saturday, September 23rd. This year will be in Hermitage at the Sundial Park. There is a big change. The event will be in the evening from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So it's going to be an evening concert, and you can learn more about the festival at goodneighborday.org. And finally, if you are appreciative of what we are doing here tonight and want to support the good programs of Neighbor to Neighbor, you can always go onto our website to give a donation to become a member. I want to thank everybody for joining, and also again for your suggested questions. And we were going to get those out to the candidates as well so they can read them after the program tonight. And now, back to the questions. Delishia Porterfield will be up first, followed by Quin Evans-Segall. The next question has to do with community safety. What are 1 or 2 ideas you have that would help the Metro government improve the safety of our residents living in neighborhoods across our community? I'll give it to you again. What are 1 or 2 ideas that you have that would help Metro government improve the safety of our residents living in neighborhoods across our community? Delishia?
Thank you so much for that question, Jim. One thing that I've been passionate about that we have been able to get some traction around, when we think about public safety, to me, you really have to address what are the root causes of what keeps our community safe, like what really keeps our community safe, and things like housing and education and workforce development and access to good quality jobs are things that keep our community safe. And one thing that I was able to work on this term, when I was vice chair of our budget and finance committee, we were able to work out where instead of just an armed police officer showing up if someone is in a mental health crisis, if someone's sick, they need a doctor. And if they're in a mental health crisis, we need to make sure that we have someone there that can provide the support that is needed to someone that's in crisis. So, you know, initially we were trying to get a HEALS model. We worked in collaboration with NOAA and other community organizations. We were able to get a co-response model, and we've seen a lot of success with that program. I would love for us to see some expansion with that program. So that's probably one of my biggest things to help keep our community safe. But then again, that second thing is going back into investments, investing in education, investing in affordable housing, investing in workforce development. Nobody goes out and works 40, 50, 60 hours a week and then tries to rob you. They're too tired. So we have to make sure that people have access to good quality jobs.
Thank you. Up now is Quin Evans-Segall, followed by Jeff Syracuse.
Yeah, so I think looking at things that make our neighborhood safer, we know that strong communities are safer communities. And we also know we've just grown a lot in Nashville, and it sort of coincided with the pandemic in some ways. And one of the things we've really got to work on, that Neighbor to Neighbor is so great on, but having those community events, those community conversations, bringing people together, saying, who are our new neighbors? How are we going to talk to them? How are we as at large is going to partner with district people to make sure we're having community meetings so people are coming together and really getting to know each other and be a part of their community? That's really, really important. Also, making sure we have ample summer programs for kids who are older who really need them, right? It's expensive. I don't know how many of you have tried to sign your kids up for day camps or summer programs. They are hundreds and hundreds of dollars a week a lot of the time. And most people just cannot afford that. And then even if they can, they're not available for teenagers. So we've really got to be better about that as well, and expanding those, and also putting workforce training in for adults and for kids so that they can actually go out and make a real living wage, right? People are often engaged in certain activities because frankly, they need food and they need money. And if they have a job that pays them enough to put food on their table, they'll be less involved in that. And unfortunately, my timer stopped. So Jim, you're just gonna have to stop me when it's time. But I would also say traffic calming. I would say that like cars driving crazy in our neighborhoods, pedestrian deaths, pedestrian injuries, cyclists, car driving accidents. These are huge public safety issues. And we've got to really look more broadly at traffic calming and also how we're going to use NDOT to better enforce the traffic laws we have so that we're all safer on our streets every single day.
Thank you. All right, up now is Jeff Syracuse, followed by Russ Pulley. Jeff?
I've served as chair of public health and safety over this past year, and it's been very enlightening to see just how much more public health is involved in long-term public safety. As soon as I became public health and safety chair, we began working on taking opioid settlement dollars and making sure that we have long-term solutions towards addressing this epidemic that we have across this nation, really. We then continue to expand mental health support, our Partners in Care program. We can continue to support our men and women, our public safety officials, but ultimately, and we've been hearing more and more from our neighbors about this, long-term public safety truly comes from public health. Gun violence is a public health epidemic. We've got to treat it as such. And when I led the 3-meeting series after the Covenant tragedy, it looked at both school safety, but it also looked at gun violence as a public health epidemic. And when we look back at the resources that we've put in place, whether it's the Office of Family Safety to protect vulnerable citizens from domestic violence and issues like that, to our Community Safety Office in the Mayor's office to address violence interruption programs and things of that nature. These are the tools and the programs we need to ultimately implement that addresses long-term public safety.
Thank you. Russ Pulley, followed by Burkley Allen. Russ?
That's a complicated issue. There's a lot of things to unpack around that. You asked for 1 to 2. My fellow candidates have been really wonderful in a lot of the issues that they've addressed, partners in care and the programs that we're using with the police department to add mental health professionals to the equation. I also believe very strongly in a strong police department. And I like the way community policing has changed over the years. Police departments reacted to changes dramatically over the years and how they handle that. I think getting police officers involved in the community and being around the community and injecting themselves in the community is a pretty big deal. Traffic and traffic enforcement is really a big deal in neighborhoods because people are speeding and doing some of the things that they were saying. Youth development was a big part of my life, and Quin alluded to this, getting our youth things to do to involve them, get jobs and things to keep them from straying away in other areas are very, very important. So there's an awful lot of things here to unpack in 90 seconds, and I've run out of time, but thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Burkley Allen, followed by Howard Jones. Burkley?
So ditto to everything everybody has said. All of this is important. I'm going to circle back around to the youth component of it. We've got some great after-school programs in place that are sort of overseen by NASA, Nashville After Zone Alliance, through the public library. We need to fund that at higher and higher levels. They do a great job of coordinating a lot of great nonprofits that provide really great after-school programs. Transportation to be able to be at those programs is another thing we have to make sure and fund. And as alluded to, the summer opportunities, we've had a program called Opportunity Now that under one mayor, the goal was to give 10,000 kids jobs. It's kind of scaled back. We need to grow that back up again because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And that's what we've got to ensure is that we're giving our kids great opportunities so that they're not unsupervised and bored and looking for something exciting to do. I think that's a huge piece of it. I also feel like that if kids are successful in school, they're less likely to be trying to find other ways to prove their self-worth. And I think that goes back to early childhood education, which is something that I think we both need to do more funding on. And again, to get rid of regulatory obstacles. It's very difficult to set up good quality childcare. We need to make it possible to do it and to fund it so that it can actually happen. I think if we've got our youth engaged, then that's going to cut down on a lot of the safety issues, and the violence interruption program as well is important.
Thank you. Howard Jones, followed by Chris Cheng. Howard?
Thank you so much. The economic divide in this city has caused a great crime epidemic almost. It's kind of hard to teach our children the Pythagorean theorem when they don't have food, clothing, and shelter. So our policing, our community policing would be amazing. When I was a kid, Officer Bodenhammer knew my parents. So we got to get our police officers to the point of being culturally competent. And when they connect, it makes a difference. Just the other day, a couple of weeks ago, there was some students that had a weapon. Because I built a relationship with those students, I was able to say, bring that weapon back. They got a weapon out of a car that was unlocked. And they informed me about that. And because I had built a relationship with those students, I called them, said, get this gun back. And they brought it to me, wrapped in a t-shirt. So I'm saying if we build that relationship and then put them to work, again, our kids need to be employed. If we do that, It would make a difference, I assure you. So we need that old co-op program, the summer work jobs in our neighborhoods, making a better difference in our neighborhood. And that would make a difference. Who's committing the crimes in this city? We're looking for a kid who killed Cordarian Hall right in North Nashville, shot him in the head. This other kid is on the loose. We've got to do it. We've got to intentionally make a difference with the economic depravity and put our kids to work, that they'll be career ready when they leave high school. And I'm telling you, it'll make a difference. I'm Howard Jones, running for council at large.
Thank you. Chris Cheng, followed by Olivia Hill. Chris?
Yeah, I won't beat that drum too much anymore, but I wholeheartedly agree with the economic opportunity position that a lot of us are mentioning. When I was deployed, I went to some parts of the planet that there wasn't a lot of economic opportunity for people, and things got, it was easy to fall into crime. And you can see that it was a pretty clear case. And I think some of the points that the other candidates have mentioned, I think are very, very, very important. In addition to that, I'll mention two things, kind of on the reactive side of public safety, but also on the proactive side. On the reactive side, something that's a lot more mundane that I've been trying to dive into, or I've been trying to meet as many people and talk to them as possible, is our emergency communications. No matter what, if you're having a fire at your house, or if there is a medical emergency or something involving that you need the police for, if we don't invest in our emergency communications to ensure that, continue that we can maintain that like 15-second response when you call 911, learning about how the backside of all this happens is really important on the reaction side, and just supporting that someone can get there to you or your family safely. On the proactive side, I absolutely agree with Quin on the community part. I think it's so important to have these neighborhood bonds, that we can build these trusts and have things where people can begin to know each other, and including having our, where our teachers are in the neighborhood, our first responders are in the neighborhood, that they live there because they can afford to live there, and they can build these bonds with these people, investing in those places like our community centers, our parks, our libraries. This to me is so important. I think culture is everything. So much of this, and setting the tone, and that's the city I want to live in. So,
Thank you. Let's see, Olivia Hill will wrap this one up. Olivia?
Wow, I don't know how we can get down to just one or two, and there's been so many great ideas tossed around here. I want to echo a few things that a couple people have said, and also some things that have been spoken in the chat. Number one, guns and cars. We have got to stop that, and we've got to find a way around that. Number two, I agree with Howard Jones. We need to put trades back in schools. I know that I took co-op when I was a senior and junior and senior, and it kept me busy. It kept me doing a job. I took radio and TV repair, and then I also worked after school for a couple of hours at Hillsborough Electric doing radio and TV repair. And it's what set up my career to go in the Navy and get into engineering. And I think it's so important. If we can find a way to get kids active, do summer programs where they're learning a trade, they're learning heat and air or electrical or plumbing or some sort of trade that can help them along the way, and then help them get a job as an apprentice and work along the way. I think it'll do an awful lot for the city.
Thank you. The last question that we're going to keep it so we can end relatively on time tonight. We're going to do 60 seconds. It's a tough question, though. For the census of neighborhoods that neighborhood organizations that Neighbor to Neighbor did several years ago, there was a deep abiding frustration. And this was also reflected in some of the questions that we heard with Metro government and all of its agencies that are constantly asking for resident input, asking for the residents to speak their mind and tell them what they want. And it seems that the agencies, the government, does exactly the opposite of what the residents are saying. So how will you, as an at-large Metro Council member, seek to rebuild the people's trust? And the first person is Quin. Okay, Quin, yep, you're up.
Sorry. That's a really hard question for 60 seconds. But, here's the thing. We actually have a ton of plans in Nashville. I've been a part of them. People in this panel have been a part of them. People who are watching have been a part of them. We constantly are planning. We're putting plans together. And with rare exception, those plans we don't generally see implemented. A new mayor comes in, a new council comes in. Like, oh, what's the institutional memory for the plan, right? It's gone. A lot of these plans are still really good. You can look at 27 Plan to Play, right? A lot of work went into that. very, very little of that has been implemented. And on council, we have to make it a priority to implement the plans we have and to continue listening to neighbors when they voice concerns about those, right? It is really, really important that we stop planning and start doing. I've spent my career doing for governments, right? And making sure plans got implemented, and I will do it for my hometown just like I do for all my clients.
Thank you, Quin. Jeff Syracuse, followed by Russ Pulley. Jeff?
Thanks. So I agree with that. We have plenty of plans. We just don't have the operational project management to effectuate them and the community engagement to be part of that. I mentioned earlier about Nashville Next and not having enough transparent metrics to understand, are we meeting the goals of it? I believe in Nashville Next. We're just not meeting the goals of it ultimately. And we need, instead of more planners, and the planning department always needs resources, but we need folks in government who bridge the gap between the neighbors and our government about how we put the plans in place, show transparency of the metrics and how we're actually achieving them. We do a pretty good job in some areas, but I go back to the example of transit-oriented development, making sure that we have project management that engages residents and the neighbors about how growth is going to benefit them. And again, whether you've lived here for multiple generations or you moved here last week, we need to be able to show how the plans are actually working. And so there's a gap there that I think a lot of our departments have an onus of responsibility to make sure that they show how their plans are being effectuated and engaging residents to be part of that change.
Thank you. Russ Pulley, followed by Burkley Allen. Russ?
Sure. The question dealt with feedback from the neighbors to our departments and this type of thing. I think we can do a whole lot better as it relates to that. You got to bridge the gap from the feedback to where it's being received and how it's being implemented. And I think we don't do the greatest job of communicating with the public a lot of times when we're involved in major pieces of legislation. So I think it's important that we as at-large council members work directly with the mayor's office. We can push a little harder well, I say we, I'm not an at-large council member, Burkley is, but that position is unique to other positions on the council because district council members sit in a different place. So I think that position can work directly with the mayor's office to do a better job of communicating, but we also have to be willing to receive the information as well. And my colleagues love the same thing, engage in the community, be involved in community meetings and hearing from the community. And then the big issue is getting that information where it needs to be and responding to it.
Thank you. Burkley Allen, followed by Howard Jones. Burkley?
I agree that communication is an important way to rebuild trust. And I have, my past 12 years have done a monthly newsletter that I continue to run into people that say, oh, thank you so much for that. People really appreciate getting on a regular, predictable basis information about what's going on. And I know a number of council members do that. I will say Councilmember Freddie O'Connell does it during the council meeting. I don't know how he does that, but just any kind of regular communication, I think, is really important. I have, as I mentioned, gotten a dashboard created so that we can see what's happening with the affordable housing plan. And I think more dashboards so that there's an accessible way for people to say what's going on with the sidewalk plan. The data is there if you can dig far enough to find it, but it's just hard to know where it is. So the more we can make it easy to find that information, I think people will appreciate that. And again, it's got to be a two-way communication thing. Some council members are really good at having monthly coffee hours or whatever. And so, you know, inviting the opportunity for people to talk. We do now have the ability in every council meeting to hear from the public, which I think is also good.
Thank you. Howard Jones, followed by Chris Cheng. Howard? You're muted.
Sorry, I'm an old government teacher. I think it's for the people, by the people. It's a representative form of government. We owe it And I commit myself to surely connecting up with district council persons and making sure we communicate, what's going on, and not, we're tired of the idea of government pushing things down our throats. It should be for the people and by the people. For instance, I think somebody in the chat said that we have academies in Nashville, for instance. I'm a principal at Stratford High School. We do not have culinary arts. We don't have auto mechanics. We do not have those trades. We do have the academies of Nashville, but we don't have trades, not in Stratford. And the kids from South 8th come to Stratford. So that's a sign that we have not communicated. Government has not communicated properly to the people. So the people think we have these things, but in truth, we don't. I commit to you that I will communicate with everybody that I can in this city to make sure, and we'll spend that time and my life communicating what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Cheng, followed by Olivia Hill. Chris?
I think one thing that I'm really passionate about is I'm kind of a physical person. Again, I'm a farmer's market vendor, which is kind of an odd position. So my wife and I work vendors and craft markets and craft festivals all around town. This is actually one really big reason why I wanted to run at large specifically. Like, I really, really am passionate about representing and learning different parts of the whole county. And like, as a small thing, like, it's not the biggest thing, but even during the early voting, polling places, like, it was really important to me to get to every single site at least once, and not just to show a face, but to be there to listen to people and learn about the different problems going on across the county, whether it be in Bordeaux or Green Hills or in Antioch or out in Hermitage at the closest one where I live. This was something that, like, I am a physical person, and for me to receive the information wouldn't just be in, like a formalized town hall or at the council meeting right before the vote on something. And I really want to get in there and be a part of actually listening to people, meet them where they're at, whether it be at their small business or their neighborhood coffee shop or what it might be. That's something personal to me that I just enjoy getting out physically throughout the county. And that's how one way I would like to connect with each different community.
Thank you. Olivia Hill, followed by Delishia Porterfield. Olivia?
Communication. I have been going to all of the council meetings for the last 6-8 weeks. I have been there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when we talked at the thing about Bellevue and the one for Belmead. And one of the biggest things that I have noticed is there seems to be a disconnect between what's going on in council and the people. And the people are not fully, a lot of people want to feel like they're heard. I don't think that the council people are not listening to the people. I just don't think the correct communication is being shared to everybody. And we need to do some more community outreach and reach out to people to let them know what's going on and answer their questions so that people feel heard and truly understand projects that are going on, and they don't feel like they're just being crammed down their throat, that they understand why this is being done and that it is a benefit for them, or if it's not a benefit for them, what can we do to make it better?
Thank you. Delishia?
Jim, thank you for this question. This is something that I'm really passionate about. If anyone's watched me over the last 4 years, you know that I stand with the people, and I stand with the people of Nashville. And consistently, we've seen that over and over again. When Nashville taxpayers came out and said that they did not want to see that stadium deal, I fought adamantly against the stadium deal. When people said they didn't want to see the council size reduced, not only did I write an op-ed in the Tennessean to educate people on the issue, I testified before the state and the Senate, and I also was a part of the legislation and stood with the people that said they did not want the council to vote on adopting whether we were going to have 17-3 or 15-5 as far as the number of council members. When we repeatedly see votes on whether we're going to have public discourse and allow people to come before the council and have a public hearing on really important votes, I always vote to allow the public to be heard. When the 2020 budget hearing happened and dialogue was cut off, when so many people were coming out talking about diverting funds from the current institutions of public safety and investing them in other institutions of public safety, and that conversation was stopped, I stood with the community and said, we need to listen to the people that are coming out, that are speaking, that are telling us what it is that they want to see. When we're in our neighborhood meetings, when we have people coming out talking about zoning concerns, we have to listen to the people, because these are the people that are most impacted by the decisions that we make.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming out and enjoying the last and listening to the night's conversation. The last thing we're going to do is give each candidate 60 seconds to make their closing arguments. Jeff Syracuse will start out, followed by Russ Pulley, and we will begin with Jeff. Jeff.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks for everybody being here tonight. I've been a passionate neighborhood leader over the past 20 years, and I've always put people first. And that included the stadium vote. We need to free up our operating budget so that we can reinvest in our neighborhoods, and taking our success as a city and utilizing performing debt that ultimately brings back investment to neighborhoods is what we need to do. We don't have a state income tax. We're not going to get one. We've got to make sure that we reinvest in neighborhoods. And that's always been my primary focus. Taking our success and making it work for the people. That is what we are trying to do. And that this is what we have been succeeding at doing. So over the past 20 years, it's been about neighborhoods. It's been about reinvesting in neighborhoods and making sure that our success reaches everybody. I've done it here as a two-term district council member, and I want to help all of council achieve that for all of Davidson County. I appreciate again the opportunity to do this. Thank you again, Jim.
Thank you. Russ Pulley, followed by Burkley Allen. Russ.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the forum. Appreciate the opportunity for everybody to get to talk. When I ran 8 years ago, I ran because I thought it was important that when the city's growing like we're growing, we do so responsibly, but we protect the things that we cherish and love about our neighborhoods. So I want to continue down that path. I think a couple of the biggest ways we can, I believe very strongly in public safety. It's very important that we protect our children and we protect the safety of our children, the safety of our community. I support our police department, and I support a strong police department, and I fully support fully funding our police department. I believe that. I believe in that. I also believe in a good, strong transit plan is one way we can help move forward, and that comes with dedicated funding, and it doesn't necessarily come out of the taxpayer of Davidson County. My 60 seconds is up, so I'll stop right there.
Thanks, Russ. Let's see. Burkley Allen, followed by Howard Jones. Burkley.
So thanks for the opportunity to be with neighbors tonight. I've got 37 years of neighborhood experience. I started out in the Hillsborough West End neighborhood doing all the things that are important to me, planting trees, getting sidewalks built, getting stop signs and crosswalks and things that made it a safe and wonderful neighborhood to live in. And ultimately decided I was essentially functioning as a junior council member anyway, so I might as well run for it when the opportunity came up. And I have loved my 12 years of service and have worked hard to work for neighborhoods and to enable us to enjoy the quality of life in our neighborhoods, as well as looking at what we can do on a countywide basis. And at this point, it looks like housing affordability, transit, and making sure our infrastructure keeps up with the growth so that the people who've been here forever can be beneficiaries of that growth are the most important things that we've done. I want to put that 12 years of experience to work for everyone, and I ask for your vote for Burkley Allen for Metro Council.
Thank you. Howard Jones, followed by Chris Cheng. Howard. Thank you.
I'm Howard Jones, native Nashvilleian. I've been here all of my life. I love Nashville. I've been an educator for nearly 30 years right here in Nashville. I was a probation officer, also at juvenile court for 10 of those 10 years prior to becoming an educator. I have been a community leader, started Kingdom Cafe and Grill in the 3728 area because there was a need, because more African-American men were going to the penitentiary in that area. So a vote for Howard Jones means a vote for a safer city. A vote for Howard Jones is a vote for fully funding education with stipulations. And then also a vote for Howard Jones is a vote for affordable housing in Nashville. I'm asking for your vote. Howard Jones, Council at Large. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Cheng, followed by Olivia Hill. Chris.
Yes. Also, thanks again for hosting this, and thanks for everyone that tuned in. I want to bring a unique perspective to the council. I'm a small business owner, a veteran. I'm a son of a Nashville native. My mother grew up in Woodbine, but my father grew up in Hong Kong. So I understand what it's like for people to come here through him and what that struggle is like as well. I kind of see I want to see the city council, especially these 5 at-large people, as kind of a team. And those are the things that I can provide. And I'm also just a learner. I genuinely try to dig into certain topics, learn from both my peers, but also learn from other outside sources. And I really willing to do the homework. That's something I'm very passionate about. I have a degree in public policy, and this is why I'm doing this. This is home for me. This is where I want to invest in our future, and I want to make this a livable town and a welcoming place for so many people. This is what it's all about. Thank you all so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Olivia Hill, followed by Delishia Porterfield. Olivia.
Thank you so much for putting all this together. My name's Olivia Hill, and I'm looking at the screen and I'm seeing an awful lot of talented people here. I'm a native Nashvilleian, 4th generation Nashvilleian. I'm a U.S. Navy combat veteran, and I put my life on the line for every single person in this country, not just people that look like me, not just people that are kind of like me, and not just people that live in Bellevue, for every single person in this county and in this country. I will fight for you. I will stand up for you, and I will try my best to improve all our utilities and infrastructure, transit, and take care of our homeless. My name's Olivia Hill. I'd love to have your vote.
Thank you. Delishia Porterfield, followed by Quin Evans-Segall. Delishia.
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you, Neighbor to Neighbor, for putting this on, and thank you all so much for coming out and having a meaningful conversation with us. Again, my name is Delishia Porterfield. I'm asking to be one of your 4 votes for council at large. If you want to see what I'll do for the next 4 years, you can look at what I've done for the last 4 years. I've been able to get more funding for Metro General Hospital. I've been able to get more funding for our lowest paid support staff, fought for textbooks for our classrooms. I've also been able to fight for funding for our schools, funding for our teachers. We've been able to get traffic calming improvements, infrastructure improvements in our communities. Those are the things that people have expressed are important to them. They're important to me, and I'll keep fighting for that. It's important that we look at diversity when we're looking at our boards and commissions and who's making the decisions in the city, and that should reflect what Nashville looks like. And we've diversified over the last 4 years. With our current mayor's administration, as well as with the support of the Minority Caucus, we've diversified our boards and commissions more so than in any other administration. And we have more people serving Nashville that look like the people of Nashville, whether that's their socioeconomic status, whether that's diversity in their ethnicity, whether that's diversity in their neighborhoods and where they live. We have to continue to do that. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Quin.
All right. Thanks again for everybody coming here tonight, Jim and Neighbor to Neighbor, for putting this on. Look, at large serves a really unique role in Nashville. At large council members get to be a council member for the entire gigantic area that is Nashville and all of the neighborhoods in it. It is really important that at large members be willing to be a part of every community in the city, be willing to advocate for them, to defend their right to grow in a responsible way that is consistent with their neighborhood vision and goals, and to be a problem solver when it comes to the big problems we're facing, from transit to housing to all the quality of life and cost of living issues we have. I have spent my career doing that for other governments. I have worked on the IDB to make sure that we focus government on people and people who live here and work here, and make sure they have housing and transit and their needs are met. And we need to do that countywide in Nashville. I hope that you will support me and vote for me so that I can do that as an at-large member as well.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us this evening. Just a personal note, whether this is your first race or whether you've been racing for 12 years or more even, right? It's a challenge to put yourself out there in the public eye. And the criticism, the accolades, there's a mix, and it's tough and it's challenging. And I just thank you for your willingness to serve our community, and look forward to greeting you all at the Good Neighbor Day Festival on Saturday, September the 23rd in Sundial Park. And thank you to everyone who was able to remain on this call, regardless of that other smaller forum that's happening tonight, so that you could hear the most important conversation in Nashville. Thank you and have a good night.